Hello again, everyone. This is Miss Robinson here again to talk you through how to prepare for your first writing task. Now, this is a task that is going to be set by your class teachers either this week or next week, and you will be expected to submit this work for marking. So I'm here to help you, give you some guidance on how to kind of get prepped and ready and raring to go. So as I said in my last lesson, this isn't going to be just like a normal lesson for me. So every time I tell you to stop the video, just press pause, get the tasks done, and hopefully we should be all raring and ready to do our writing task. So whilst you're going to stop the video in a second, and you can do your title, which is preparing for the writing task, and the learning objective, which is writing for text type, audience and purpose, as well as creating a viewpoint and developing your ideas. So our keywords for today are conventions, text type, audience, purpose, and I will talk to you about them shortly. Some of them I hope you'll be familiar with now, but it's always nice to go over them. Also, you can do your do now, which is where you can have a quick refresh of your memory from last lesson, which shouldn't be that long ago in your memory, and think about why is it important to link our paragraphs. So pause the video, write down any notes you need to make, and then we'll get started. So by the end of this lesson today, you should be able to understand the text type, audience, purpose of your upcoming writing task. So what are you being expected to do? Identify the conventions of a diary entry, so I've kind of given you a hint there, and also begin planning for the writing task ready for you to write it up and send it to your teachers. So why was it important to link paragraphs? Well, last lesson we had a quick look at that. It was looking about how we can make our writing flow, showing our readers why we understand, why we've changed our paragraphs so they understand what's going on, show there's some sort of order to our writing, and basically just making our writing fit together like that jigsaw we talked about. So it isn't just all over the place. It's not random. It's very clearly ordered. Okay, so let's have a look at the keywords. So conventions. Now, often I ask this question, and quite often I get, oh, is it when we all dress up as Batman and Spider-Man? Well, no, they're common conventions. They're places where people come together, but the convention we deal with English is this one. It's a typical feature that you would expect to find in a style of writing or a movie or a film or a book. So it's the genre. So it's a particular, specific, typical feature of that genre. So for example, a convention of a horror genre, so if I said to you, Tom, write me a horror story, I would hope you would use conventions of blood and gore and weapons and all sorts like that. Okay, now I really want you to make a note of this because it's really good to get it in your head. You would never be able to achieve anything English if you didn't know tap. Tap is so important because if I turned to you and said, write me something, you would all instantly say, what? That's what text type is. What? What are you being asked to write? So the typical type of writing, if you're writing a text type, you have to have specific features. So if you're writing a letter, it's going to look very different to an article. It's going to look very different to a leaflet. So you need to know what you're writing. So text type is what type of writing. The audience, it will change your vocabulary, it will change your writing style, it will change your tone because it is who you are writing for. Now, audience, I don't mean somebody who's going to sit there watching, I mean somebody you are speaking to or writing to. So the people you are aiming your writing at. So who is the audience? So you could be writing a letter to the Queen. You could be writing a letter or an email to Mrs. Doward. You could be writing a leaflet for your classmates. You could be writing an article for the general public. So you need to know who you are writing for because that can change your style of writing as well. And finally, the big one, the why. Why we are writing. Now, when I ask you a purpose of writing, we usually put that word to in because it's doing something to the audience. You are doing something. So you could be asked to write a description, so therefore you have to describe. You could be asked to write a story, therefore you need to write to entertain. You might be asked to write a speech where you have to argue. So you have to know why you are writing, and that is incredibly important. So before you do any style of writing for any of your English teachers, you want to know the TAP: text type, audience, purpose. What are you writing? Who are you writing for? Why are you writing? So your first writing task, your first official home learning writing task, which is going to get marked by your teachers, is this. You are going to write your own diary entry about life in self-isolation in 2020. So people are going to read this and know about your experiences. So it's really important to write about this in a clear way and give the information that people want to know. So let's tap it. I want you to have a quick go. Look at it yourself. What's being asked? What's your text type? Who are you writing to? Why are you writing? So if you pause the video, you should be able to do that yourself. Right, so what is quite straightforward is a diary entry. That is what you are going to write. You're not writing a letter or anything else, you're writing a diary entry. Who? Now, usually diary entries are written for the person. So they're written for you. You are writing it for yourself so you can put your thoughts and ideas down. But some diaries are really, really, really good historical evidence of things that have happened, so people in future generations can understand what people have gone through. So there are incredibly famous diaries that are still used now for people to study and understand what was going on in the past. So Samuel Pepys wrote his diary during the Fire of London. We have Anne Frank, who wrote her diary in World War II. So there's quite a lot of people who write these diaries. So diary entries can be really, really important. Okay, why? Basically, the purpose of a diary entry is to recount, is to tell people what has happened. So you tell people what's gone on. And you can also use diaries to describe. So you could describe things in your diary entry, how a particular place looks. So, for example, one thing I've noticed is when I go out on my 1 hour of exercise a day, I've noticed how eerie and quiet everywhere is. So I would possibly think about writing a paragraph in my diary entry about describing how strange and peaceful and creepy it is out at the moment. Okay, so have a think now. Pause your video and I want you to write down as many conventions as you can. I'm asking you to write a diary entry, so what would I expect to see in that? What should it include? What should it look like? Pause the video, off you go. Okay, so some of the things you should have, and you can tick these off if you like. We're writing in first person because it's about you and your personal experiences. You should always write diary entries in past tense. Nobody stands around watching events unfold, writing a diary entry as they're there. You do it after it's happened, okay? Some people include a paragraph about what they're hoping for the future, so that might switch to future tense, but usually stay in the past, things that have already happened. Diary entries usually are fairly more informal because they're not necessarily going to be read by anyone else. However, we would like, because we are going to be reading them, we would like you to be using good quality English and nothing inappropriate. So just make sure if it is informal, it's not too informal or inappropriate or daft. Okay, diary entries definitely should have thoughts and feelings. That's what they're there for, is for somebody to recount their day and process what they've been feeling and how they thought and what they were going through. You usually should write your diary entry in chronological order. It would be a little bit daft to write about what you were doing in the evening and then go back later to what you did in the morning. It would just be a little bit strange. So try and put it in the right order: morning, afternoon, evening, that sort of thing. Therefore, that really links us to what we were talking about last lesson, where we need to be making sure we use those time connectives to show that time has moved on. So things like later that day, or that evening, or after I went there, those sorts of words and connectives to show that the time has moved on, when you might be talking about the morning and you could talk about later in the day. We quite often in diary entries, you might see a bit of exaggeration, where people are really kind of getting their emotions and feelings off their chest. Obviously, because it's a diary, we would like to start with Dear Diary. If you finish your diary as well, you can always sign your name or write something like, hopefully be able to write again tomorrow, but you want definitely to have the Dear Diary at the start. And quite often, more often than not, your diary should always start with a date as well, so people can recognize when it was written and help them with if it's helping them understand the historical events going on. Okay, so now I would like you to have a think about where can you find these. So if you can, pause the video. I want you to read this little diary entry extract. You should recognize it from Diary of the Wimpy Kid. And I want you to write down and label as many of the conventions we've just talked about. So March, Monday. Mum's always saying that friends will come and go, but family is forever. Well, if that's true, I could be in for a rough ride. I mean, I love my family and all, but I'm just not sure we were meant to live together. Maybe it'll be better later on when we're all in different houses and only see each other on the holidays. But right now, things are just a little dicey. So look at your list of diary entry conventions, know those typical features, and which ones can you find in that extract now. Okay, pause the video, have a go. So if you were doing this correctly, you should have found that, if you can see my arrow, we've got March on Monday, so we have the date. It's not a very specific date, but it's still there. We have first person, so person is writing I because it's about them. We have some informal language here, a rough ride, which means a tough time, so it's talking quite informally. We also have as well just a little dicey down at the bottom, which is also quite informal. We have the capital letters live together, which is a little bit of an exaggeration. And how this person's describing, Diary of the Wimpy Kid's describing how he loves his family, so he's got his thoughts and feelings. So you can see there what one's been used. So we can see that this is really clear, obvious diary entry. Also, some people like to add doodles or drawings to make their diary a little bit more personalised. So that's something that you can see there. Okay, now if you would like to challenge yourself, you can do the same task again, but this time with an extract from Anne Frank's diary. So Anne Frank was a young girl living in World War II, and she was hidden in an attic in Amsterdam because she was Jewish. She was hiding from the Nazis. She had to live. So if we think we've got it bad now with all our being able to go out and have exercise and TV and films, you have got nothing on what Anne Frank had to go through. So she had to live away to hide herself to save her own life. So July 15th, 1944. It's utterly impossible for me to build my life on a foundation of chaos, suffering, and death. I see the world being slowly transformed into a wilderness. I hear the approaching thunder that one day will destroy us too. I feel the suffering of millions, and yet when I look up at the sky, I somehow feel that everything will change for the better, that this cruelty too will end, that peace and tranquility will return once more. In the meantime, I must hold on to my ideals. Perhaps the day will come when I'll be able to realise them. So have a think. What has she written about? Pause the video, see if you can spot which diary entry convention she's been using. Okay, if you have a look, you can see where my arrow is. We've got July the 15th, 1944. We have the date. We have her using the first person again. I see the world. So she's talking about her own personal experiences. All of this is about her feelings and her worries and fears about what's happening to the world at the time. Remember, she's living during World War I, where the Nazis are killing billions of Jewish people for no reason. And also as well, though, here is a little bit different because she's talking about the future. Perhaps the day will come. She's thinking about what will come what hope she has for the future. So it's quite a lovely little diary extract there for us to realise and put things into perspective. Okay. So we're going to do a little quiz now, so you need a little bit of a pen and paper. You only need to write down the answers, so you could just put A, B, C or D. There's probably more likely going to be more than one answer to each one. So I'm going to show you a little extract and I want you to spot which conventions are being used. So number one, I guess I felt kind of sorry for it, so I tossed a cheese curl out the moonroof. I have to say I was pretty impressed when the seagull caught the thing in midair. So is it first person? Thoughts, feelings, is it the date, or is it chronological order? So pause the video, write down A, B, C or D. Okay, this is first person and it's thoughts and feelings. I was pretty impressed, and then you've got that I talking about themselves. Okay, number two. Finally, the seagull beat me in our tug of war and flew straight up through the moonroof, taking the bag with it. For a second, it seemed like the whole incident was over, but the seagull didn't get far with the bag. So apologies, guys. That one answer was already up. It's time connectives and thoughts and feelings. Finally, is the time connective, and then we have the thoughts and feelings again. Is it straight up through it? It seemed like the whole incident was over. It's all about what they were thinking about the incident. Okay. Number three, about 3/4 of the cheese girls ended up back in the car from there. It was a total nightmare. So is it A, thoughts and feelings, B, time connectives, C, first person, or D, informal language? Okay, give yourself a tick. Thoughts and feelings again, that's the main thing you should be talking about in your diary entry. And also there's an informal language there, being a total nightmare. That's quite informal for us. Okay, next one. A few of the seagulls flew up front and Roderick got so freaked out he hit the gas. When the birds finally cleared out and things settled down, we had a whole new problem to deal with. So is it A, thoughts and feelings, B, chronological order, C, exaggeration, or D, informal language? Pause the video, write down your letters. Okay, it was all of them. It's chronological order because it's happening, what's going on after the birds have cleared out. I believe the birds have all swooped in the car and got all these crisps. There's all the thoughts and feelings about different problems. We have the exaggeration, we've got the whole new problem, we've got the so freaked out, and then the informal language again, so freaked out, hit the gas. That's all quite informal language. Okay, so diary entry, what language should we write in? Our diary entries should be in first person and informal language. And how might a person choose to make their diary entry more personalised? So A, B, C or D? Do you think of thoughts and feelings, doodles and drawings, nicknames for people and places, or using third person? So making it more personalized, I would say making sure obviously your thoughts and feelings are very personal, but you can also use your doodles and drawings, and nicknames is fine. Don't use third person. So you should have A, B or C there. Purpose of a diary entry is to recount or recall, which is D. Okay. And the audience for your diary entry is yourself. Okay, so finally. So what thoughts and feelings could we be writing about? Now, this is the time now where you want to be planning your diary entry. You want to write down, if you want to use a mind map or bullet points, you want to be exploring what thoughts and feelings, what are you going to be writing about in your diary entry? I would argue try and write about things that you would want to hear about if you were reading somebody else's. So you don't need to tell everybody that you had cornflakes for breakfast. That's a little bit boring. But you can explore how you might have had, I hope not, but might have had a horrible argument with one of your siblings because you're all on top of each other and it's too much going on. Or you could have a paragraph about going out for a walk and what the places are like now compared to what they used to be. So I would take time now, take a good sort of 5 or 10 minutes to really come up with as many ideas as you possibly can. Your diary entry is going to be marked by your teachers, so you don't want to write too little. They want to be able to see how good your writing is. Okay, off you go, pause the video, have a think. What are you going to include when you do your writing? Okay, when you've had your plan and you carried on, I would also take a moment to plan which order you're going to write in. So maybe with each idea, put a number next to it. So first things first, your paragraph 1 could be about just waking up in the morning. How is it? How do you feel today? We have you got? And bear in mind, guys, you could have a mixture of emotions. There's plenty of things. No one's going to judge you here for what you do. So make sure you write down, number down which order you're going to write about. So how you feel in the morning, any events that have happened in the day, are you coping with online teaching or lessons? Have you been out and about for a walk anywhere? What are you really, really missing? There are lots of things to talk about. So make sure, 1, your plan is finished, and 2, you've put your ideas in a good order so you know what you want to talk about. Okay, so that would be your writing task for this week. Your teachers will put it on class charts. Make sure you remember that your previous lessons on paragraphing and linking paragraphs, so making sure that you are changing your paragraphs at the right time. So are you talking about different topics or times or places, and make sure you use those appropriate connectives. So for example, if it is going in chronological order, you need those connectives to show that the time is moving on. Are you talking about the morning, then the afternoon? Are you talking about one day, then the next day? You need to make sure those paragraphs are linked. Your English teacher now is going to be in touch with you, so your information will go on class charts. They will include the task, the success criteria. They'll also include some vocabulary to use and some ideas to help you support. You need to not lose the work you've done today, because that is your planning, so you need to make sure you use that, and you will be being marked, so you need to submit this task on the day you are given it. So don't forget to submit it. It is all about what you've been learning so far, showing your teachers that you understand. Okay, I hope that's been helpful. If you have any questions, please email me. It's krobinson@stretfordhigh.com, and I'll be happy to share any questions, but I hope you are successful in your writing. So have a great day, and good luck with the writing task. I'm sure you will be absolutely fab.